This is Daily Politics. I'm David Zhang. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. The Chinese spy air balloon that was shot down, but there's a lot of issues behind this balloon and what that particular balloon exposed for both in the US and internationally. So it's a very big topic and needs a lot of attention. But our focus today is basically, what does the CCP balloon tell us about what China is doing in the United States and around the world? The focus is unrestricted warfare, and it's a big, broad term, which we're going to dissect today. So let's get into it. The latest news for this particular topic is the fact that the balloon's been shot down, and they're in the process of recovering what type of data is being used or was on that device that was stored there. And what could they find out about what China's been doing with these type of balloons, which, by the way, have popped up over the years in Japan, India, South America, likely doing the same thing, spying and surveilling, getting the information that they could. You know, the slow-moving balloon can capture a lot greater details in photos and images of different key facilities, like a nuclear launch silo, for example. But let's start here. So, according to this is news coming out of just today, a few moments ago, actually. According to the North Command, so this is the Northcom chief, General VanHerck, he says that that particular balloon that they shot down was about 200 feet tall, with a payload the size of a jetliner, so a jet, and it weighed in excess, quote, in excess of a couple thousand pounds, and potentially carried explosives to detonate and destroy the balloon, okay? Remember, for the longest time, they were saying, oh, we couldn't destroy the balloon over Montana or in Alaska, and we had to wait for it to go into the ocean, and then we could destroy it. I still I'm not convinced by that excuse. I'm pretty sure you can do that in Alaska when they first tracked it, or over the Aleutian Sea, which is north near Alaska. In that area, I'm pretty sure you can do it without harming anybody. But it sounds like this particular balloon is a huge balloon. And according to some other detail, here says, the Pentagon reportedly says China's spy balloon shot down by U.S. fighter jets created a debris field 1,500 by 1,500 meters, which is about the size of 15 football fields. Okay, so a payload the size of a jetliner, a few thousand pounds, when it dropped and scattered, the debris field that it created was about 15 football fields. Huge distance, right? Huge area covered. So it's a huge thing. And honestly, like, if it had carried any type of explosive device or bombs or some sort, or a payload that was meant to destroy, right? One of these things drop in a city area or even in like rural area, the damage you can imagine is pretty significant. And this kind of leads into our focus today, which is unrestricted warfare. What that means basically is there's no limit to what kind of a war that the Chinese Communist Party could bring to America, whether that's psychological, whether that's kinetic war, which is like full-on assault. It could be propaganda, it could be political warfare of any sort. But this time the balloon really exposed the full extent of what they could do, right? These balloons are capable of carrying payloads that are meant to destroy or to harm, right? And this is just a tip of the iceberg in terms of what type of warfare they would try to do, right? There's an article from like 2013 that says China's been secretly testing anti-satellite missile, right? If they want to do something over Taiwan, they can simply just send missiles, destroy the satellites, turn off the communication systems in North America, and successfully destroy the line of communications the United States has, right? And they have these EMP systems, which, by the way, can also be hooked onto those balloons, can be used to cause harm, detonate them on top of the American continental United States in the airspace, and that could destroy all of the electronic communication systems and cause harm again. So it tells us another thing, right? China's been pretty much lying about everything they've been saying about this balloon. So let's kind of dissect this from the perspective of what the Chinese Foreign Ministry said. So this is the spokesperson today. She says the entry of the strayed balloon, notice the word strayed, right? They don't say controlled or maneuvered, they say strayed. Balloon into U.S. airspace was purely unintended, unexpected, and isolated incident. All right, they're trying to make it seem like this is just some civilian weather balloon thing that went off course. So I don't know how that happens, but says again, it tests, however, whether the U.S. is sincere about stabilizing and improving its relations with China and whether it can properly manage the crisis. Okay, that sounds like they're trying to shift the blame from China, the Communist Party of China, perhaps even the military involved, trying to send a dangerous carrying payload balloon the size of, what was it? 200 feet tall balloon into the United States and then blaming on the US, right? It's like if your neighbor Sam went into your house, took a bunch of photos, tried to steal something, and then you caught him on his way out of the window, and then you're like confronting him about it, and he's like, oh, by the way, I'm just testing our friendship, no problem there. What you're gonna do, you're probably gonna shoot the guy if he's a home intruder, right? And then he's like trying to pin the blame on you to say that you're the bad one for shooting it down, right? Well, this is obviously, it's information, but it's disinformation warfare, right? This is all part of the plan for China to make it seem like what they're doing is correct. What they're doing is justified. And they did this out of humiliation too, right? Secretary Blinken was supposed to visit China just before this happened. And they, honestly, I think it might actually be true that they sent this out of just trying to humiliate the United States, saying, look at this, we literally violated your airspace, your sovereignty, and Blinken is still running to China to beg for relationship repairment between US and China. Look at us, we're so great, right? This is the rising East and the falling West, right? This is the concept that they're trying to legitimately trying to say that China is doing much better than the United States, and it is the US that has to come back at its doorstep. But what's worse about this is the fact that a lot of the media right now, they're repeating this line from the Chinese Communist Party, right? What exactly the foreign ministry spokesperson said here, the fact that, oh, it was simple blunder. It was a isolated incident. It was unexpected. It was unintended. China did not mean for this to happen, right? They're repeating this when we know exactly how severe, how serious the situation could have been if it was carrying something like a bomb, right, or an explosive. Okay, so look at this. According to, say, for example, the New York Times. The New York Times says China's balloon dispute aims attention at Xi's leadership. And the flap with the United States raises concerns about how China wields its power in a climate where one wrong move could set off an accidental conflict. Okay? Basically, the article goes on to talk about what exactly is the real intent of the balloon. And then they're trying to focus on that idea that, oh, Xi Jinping, basically, the U.S. is trying to make it seem like the Chinese apparatus is it's less functional, and then how that there's like things that in there that, oh, we can't just blame everything on the government. And then pinning all of this on the relationship between the U.S. and China, right? The U.S. doesn't need China's relationship. Right now, China needs the United States for the Communist Party to survive. It's not the other way around, but everybody's trying to repeat the idea that somehow, oh, this was basically just a civilian thing, or this was a one-off thing. It's not, right? According to this, like Colombia says, they found a balloon-like object in its airspace, which is the second in the past 2 years, I believe. And this is a day after the U.S. shot down that Chinese spy balloon. And then you also have a lot of people online, like experts, saying that, oh, let's just pin it on the idea that China made a mistake. Maybe they actually didn't mean for it to come here. And then there were people obviously towing the party line, like these 50-cent army trolls, and they're saying, oh, these balloons can't be controlled. They're just simply used for civilian purposes, right? China doesn't have a 100% civilian purpose, especially when it comes to technology, right? Everything is dual use. There's a civil military fusion technology idea, or tactic really, is that anything military can be civilian, anything civilian can be military. And most of the time, they actually import civilian technology that can be adopted for the military use. And then this could be one of the case. In fact, a Twitter user named Zhang, or Jennifer Zhang, she actually found some of the manufacturer of these Chinese spy balloons. And according to her, this is Military Research Institute with weapon production license manufacturing these balloons. Okay, so the place that they do this is called the Zhuzhou Rubber Research and Design Institute Limited, which is a government-owned military research institute with weapon production licenses. Its military supporting products were used in the Shenzhou V manned spacecraft and have won the PLA General Armament Department commendation. It is it is a designated research institution for the weather balloon. And let me zoom in here a little bit. And for all military branches of the PLA, People's Liberation Army, and the only professional research institute in the latex industry. Okay, she goes on to talk about more details in this, but basically here are some of the screenshots that she took. So for example, this is one of the personnel or employment record that they track here. And this is according to their website, which is a little too small here. Let me see if I can zoom in. Basically, it's talking about, it's touting how it's been helping the military. And then China's own state media reports how good these weather balloons, these so-called weather balloons are, which according to this one can go up to 48,000 meters high. And then you have like these facilities. This is the actual manufacturing facility, the building, the front of it, and which is for latex research. But like I said, these things, they're essentially state-owned enterprises supporting the government's unrestricted warfare effort, right? And a lot of this also includes things like the chemical warfare, right? Who says they can't put something in that payload that could spray chemical, that could travel by air, a disease, something like that, right? All of that is included in the unrestricted warfare. And then you also have things like gathering information, which is looks like the primary purpose of this one. Again, we still don't know so much about what they were going to recover and how much they can share with the public. But from the sound of it, it seems like most of that is for intelligence gathering, especially considering that they were hovering over Montana, which has the Malmstrom Air Force Base. That's where a lot of the ICBMs, right, the intercontinental ballistic missiles, nuclear silos are. So they know exactly what they're looking for. And these balloons have been found out they can be maneuvered at a certain amount of distance. I believe up to 40,000 feet high, something like that. And they have these like maneuverable, controllable devices attached to the balloons. And of course, they have these like security looking cameras to capture very detailed images. Since they fly at such a much lower altitude relative to a satellite, and then they're closer to the ground, they can get brighter, clearer, crispier images. And so it's very useful, right? The things that this have shown us, right, include things like how prepared are we against an aerial invasion or an aerial attack from China? Of course, the Pentagon keeps claiming that this is harmless to civilians because it's a balloon. It doesn't carry the weapon or weaponizing capacity right now. But it still doesn't feel good to know that China's aerial objects can easily enter the United States just by air and then drop something there if they choose to, which can be controlled. That's very, very dangerous to think about. And it also kind of shows us who is basically in charge of the US military, right? Biden says apparently he ordered for it to be shot down, but then it was rejected by Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, right? Who supposed to only serve in an advisory role, is telling the commander-in-chief not to shoot it down. And then you also have them pinning the blame on the Trump administration, saying, oh, the same thing happened during the Trump administration. Right now, again, it seems like one of them was found after Biden came into office. We don't know about the other ones, but according to the former director of national intelligence, John Ratcliffe, he basically says none of this type of stuff happened during the Trump administration. So again, not sure what's going on there, but they're trying to avoid the blame here, which is obviously, like, if you consider, should they have shot it down earlier? Definitely. They should have shot it down somewhere. They obviously know the trajectory of it. They knew how much damage it was going to do. So find a place that they can shoot it down before it started gathering all of the intelligence across heartland America. But most importantly, it shows that the U.S. China relationship is very fragile for a good reason, right? The U.S. is about to impose some of the harshest restrictions on technology to China exports, like on Huawei and semiconductors. Like, that's going to kill China's semiconductor industry, right? This strategic tech competition is over between the U.S. and China. So obviously, the U.S., from a foreign policy perspective, is trying to put these guardrails in so that the relationship doesn't hit rock bottom, where you end up isolating the two sides to a point where they can just kind of do whatever they want because there's no more attachment. But then on the flip side, why is the Biden administration so eager to get involved with China, to contact China, when obviously they're not sincere 100% about? And honestly, the productivity of the meeting isn't going to be well either, since the two sides obviously have differences that they won't agree on. So it's not like the meeting's going to go anywhere. So now the trip is canceled or delayed at least. And it just shows us that there's a lot of issues that we have to look into, especially when it comes to national security. The reason why I think the GOP side especially has been over, almost like they're dramatic to a sense, but really it's serious. It's because this could be seen as like a Pearl Harbor type event because you never know what they're carrying, right? And then who knows what type of salami slicing they're doing. First, they find out that your response to this is to observe instead of react first, right? You, instead of shooting it down the first minute that you see it, you're trying to observe the situation, and they're trying to test how much time, right, between you making the decision and actually executing it. And then they're trying to see what type of a response chain of command the United States has. So even if as the balloon gets taken down, there's a lot of information outside of the intel aspect that the Chinese Communist Party can gather, and they can actually tell that, you know, some things are better, some things are worse in the United States when it comes to dealing with China. All right, and then another point about this is the unrestricted warfare is more than just a balloon, but I think this time what the balloon did is woken up some people to the threat of China, like COVID has, right? COVID-19 taught us that China is capable of creating a bioweapon. Whether the virus COVID-19 itself was a bioweapon or not, we don't know. But China is capable, and they have been doing gain-of-function research, and that they're willing to hide the truth from people. So unrestricted warfare goes into another aspect, and that's really TikTok. And we have to talk about TikTok because TikTok is one of those things that every child in the United States and around the world probably have used or continues to use the particular app to this day. The Wall Street Journal today did a really good article on this. It's called TikTok Brain Explained: Why Some Kids Seem Hooked on Social Video Feeds. Today's kids, their attention span is much lower than kids, you know, my age or older than me, but people that have gone, like things have gotten so fast and so quick, right? And if you notice, these apps, the TikTok apps, and before there was the Vine, they're catering to the generation of short attention span. But while they do so, they're also addicted. Kids will spend hours on TikTok looking at 10-second videos or 15-second videos, but they refuse to focus on a single subject for longer than 2 minutes. Why is that? And why is TikTok utilizing this, right? TikTok is a Chinese company, and the parent company, ByteDance, is severely, heavily controlled by the CCP. And so they have to listen to the CCP, right? It goes into that unrestricted warfare aspect, control the next generation. And says here, links between attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, diagnosis, and screen time are subject to debate, since many factors could account for a steady rise in cases, and even parents whose children don't qualify for that medical diagnosis say their kids are more distracted. Emerging research suggests that watching short, fast-paced videos make it harder for kids to sustain activities that don't offer instant and constant gratification. Basically, TikTok is a digital opium. It's a drug that offers that instant satisfaction when you see a video, because you expect that every single time you scroll, right? Every video you're given the same formula, this fun, fast-paced, engaging video, usually entertainment, sometimes very inappropriate material like adult-only content focused on sex, drugs, and depression, exposed to kids, underage kids, right? This is the part that worries people. TikTok is so effective at controlling the narratives too. Whether that's political narratives or what's going on in other parts of society. TikTok is literally faster than teachers at changing what a kid wants to believe in or already believes in. So one of the few studies specifically examining TikTok-related effects on the brain focused on Douyin, the TikTok equivalent in China, made by the same Chinese company, ByteDance. It found that the personalized video that app recommendation engine shows user activate the reward centers of the brain as compared to the general interest videos shown to new users. Brain scans of Chinese college students showed that areas involved in addiction were highly activated in those who watched personalized video. It also found some people have trouble controlling when to stop watching. We speculate, quote, that individuals with lower self-control ability have more difficulty shifting attention away from favorite video stimulation, the researcher at China's Zhejiang University wrote. China has long time fought internet addiction issues, starting from video games to now phone apps. So they've done a lot of research on this, right? What they've done, I think, is they've taken the research they learned addicting their own kids, transforming that into a way that they can use to inject the addiction into Western countries through TikTok. So TikTok's algorithm controls people in the ways that they keep recommending videos of your interest. So it's like almost like you're catering the perfect scenario of satisfaction every single time in every single video. So every 15 seconds, you're almost like you're giving your brain the dopamine rush it needs to continue to watch. and you're always getting better and better curated content for the particular set of interests that you have. So over time, you've basically been molded into only using the app because that's the only thing that's going to satisfy you, right? And all of this is built on the fact that it's quick. Now, TikTok itself, right, if you really argue just the facts, is just a video sharing platform. But it's the fact that there's algorithms for underage kids that could be exposed to things like drug use, to sex, to crimes, to things like that, that when it really becomes dangerous. But then you also have the spying aspect, right? There's a lot of talks these days about how the balloon is spying on Americans. But if you think about it, TikTok does the exact same thing for a much younger audience and tracks every detail of their phone usage, like their stroke information, right? What are they searching? Their general information. Even perhaps when they're not using the app, they're still tracking their phone usage. So having the app is like installing a little spy into your phone. And they knows a lot of information, location data, Wi-Fi information, all of those things, right? Chinese company Fufan Group that bought a huge amount of land there, about $700 million for a corn mill on the outskirts of the town. And then they're supposed to be generating new jobs, new tax revenue, and then also places for farmers, right? Sounds like a really great plan, this investment coming into North Dakota. And it's supposed to help people get jobs, boost the economy there. Why not? It was under this context that there's a battle for them to, being so close to an Air Force base, and the fact that it's a Chinese company from China raises a lot of questions, right? So the latest here, who basically is for more than 2 years, the mayor of this city near the Minnesota border backed a Chinese company's plan. He has now reversed that, right? Because the Air Force general has come out and said basically there's a national security issue. So that's the mayor's name. And he says, quote, "When it comes to national security, I don't think the economics matter," said Mr. Porchensky, a former professional hockey player who previously played in Russia and was elected mayor in 2020. You've got to draw a hard line there. So he's basically said, no matter what, how much it cost, benefit for us, that the national security side is much more important, right? So China also does this too, right? They go out to different countries and they buy up a lot of land. In particular in the United States here, let me show you the graph that they have. Okay, starting in the 2010s is like by I think this is like 2013, it skyrocketed, right? And then they've been kind of buying more and more land throughout and this is just in the United States, right? So around the world, there's a lot more. For example, in Texas, they own almost, this is 150,000 acres. North Carolina, it looks like it's about, is that 50,000? And then you go out and you see there's some observation tower that can look directly into the Air Force Base. That would probably raise concerns. But then there's also the food security issue, right? China is a huge importer of U.S. goods in grains. China doesn't produce a lot of food for its own. So if they need a lot of food, they can get from the land that they bought outside in other countries, like in Latin America, in the United States, right? There's Smithfield Foods that was purchased by a Chinese company. The pork production, right? China is a huge pork consuming country. And then you also have the concern that this is intelligence gathering once again. Every time they have this economic incentive to it, whether that's asking foreign investors to come in or for them to invest outward, there's always the first thing that comes to everybody's mind is they want to boost the economy. But that's what lures people in, because after that is when all these nitty-gritty things come in, like the spying, intelligence gathering, and then like the local influence too, right? They change the way that you want to think about China. Thanks so much for watching today's live stream on Ganjin World. Make sure to follow us there, follow our channel. And then for the video, make sure on YouTube to subscribe to our channel. And then comment below what your thoughts are on the topic of China's unrestricted warfare. Thanks so much for watching tonight. I'm David Zhang, and we'll see you next time.